move, he pressed the horn until she finally turned her head towards us. I couldn't quite tell her facial expression because of how dark it was, but an inexplicable shudder ran down my spine when I felt her gaze on me. "Are you here to help?" she spoke in a bare whisper. "Where is Quan?" Ismail asked back, his voice becoming sharper all of a sudden. "Where did he go?" Her hand slowly gestured towards the pitch-black road ahead of us. Ismail paused for a moment before turning towards me. "You stay here with the girl. I'll go find Quan on foot myself." Wait, a bang? By the time I fumbled with my seatbelt and finally unbuckled it, he was long gone. The only saving grace was that he had left the key in the ignition, so I had the engine idling noise and the meager light from the dashboard to accompany me in the dark. Well, there was also the girl, but something about her felt extremely. "Hui, can you see them?" "There, behind your car." Her whispery voice startled me. I was about to question how in the world did she know my name, but curiosity got the better of me and I turned my head around to glance at the rear window. At first, I wasn't sure what I was supposed to see. But then, the hazard lights from my brother's car flashed, and for a split second, I caught something stretching across the width of the road. What the hell was that? The hazard lights flashed again, and I could now make out the something to be shadowy wisps floating in a single row. My scream froze in my throat as the lights flashed once more, revealing 6 distinct humanoid figures standing shoulder to shoulder. And with every flash, the figures came closer and closer, their ghostly appearances becoming clearer and more defined. I was snapped out of my fright by a loud rap on the window. "Hui, hurry up and unlock the car door." I blinked, and the figures vanished as though they were never there to begin with. Somehow I managed to find the knob to release the door lock in the dark, and Ismail tossed my brother's limp body into the back seat with a grunt. I let out a gasp. Is he okay?" "He'll live, but they played a pretty bad prank on your brother," he said, settling into the driver's seat and starting the engine. "No choice but to leave your car here, so tell your parents to meet me in the morning. I can drive them down here to get the car back." "Okay." I hesitated before gathering the courage to ask, "Who are you talking about, a bang?" Right, you haven't been born yet when it happened," he said quietly. "Long time ago, this road formed part of a highway that went all the way to the capital. A lot of vehicles from the north used this road to get there, and because of the many sharp turns, it was easy to lose control if you weren't paying attention. Many accidents happened here as a result. One night, a long-distance bus was traveling on this exact road with 7 passengers, all high school students on a holiday trip to the capital. The driver was new to the road, and while overtaking another vehicle, he noticed that there was a bend ahead too late and couldn't stop the bus in time. He pointed at the road ahead absent-mindedly. So he jumped out through the driver's door, and the bus with the 7 passengers crashed right down into a ravine. The ravine was too steep and deep to attempt a rescue, so in the end, everyone on the bus was presumed dead. The bus was never recovered, however, and to this day it's rumored that their bodies are still lying somewhere down there, waiting to be found. That's horrible. I couldn't help but shudder. So just now, those figures must have been. You saw them? Ismail mumbled. How many did you see? How many? I said in surprise. 6, I think. Something clicked in my mind then, and I started. Wait, one's missing. No, he whispered as he stared at the rearview mirror. The girl. I frantically turned to check on my brother in the back seat, but a hand shot out and stopped my head in place. Hui, no, Ismail said in a low voice. Don't look. That was the first time I've ever seen true fear in someone else's eyes. Forcing my saliva down my suddenly dry throat, I sunk into my seat and lowered my gaze to the best of my ability. Ismail turned the car around and began the journey back. Yet this time, we were struggling to gain momentum uphill even in first gear. It felt like the car had become several times heavier than on our way down, and I was more than certain my scrawny and underweight brother wasn't the cause of it. A bang, what should we do? I muttered so softly that I thought he wouldn't catch what I was saying. They won't hurt us, he answered, though his voice was strained. Then, he began murmuring something under his breath, some sort of prayer chant, if I were to guess. The car suddenly jerked from side to side at that very moment, as if something heavy was thrashing about in the back seat. It took every fiber in my being not to scream out loud in panic. I swore I heard laughter from behind before the shaking abruptly stopped. Ismail didn't waste another moment and slammed the pedal to the metal, sending the cancel flying up the road at breakneck speed. If not for his driving experience, I wouldn't doubt for a second that we would have long ended up in a ravine too. It was only when the lights of the town appeared in the distance that we finally slowed down, and when Ismail pulled up next to our house, my father was already waiting by the front door. The two men exchanged a knowing look, and after thanking Ismail for his help, my father effortlessly hoisted my brother out of the car and into our living room. It wouldn't be until the next day when my brother finally regained consciousness. Bizarrely, the last thing he remembered was the engine mysteriously dying on the way back home and him exiting the car to open up the hood. He couldn't recall ever calling Ismail to ask for help, and I soon realized there was no way for him to make a call in the first place, since there were no payphones along the road. As for his girlfriend, apparently she had fallen ill and was forced to stay at home, so he didn't manage to meet up with her at all that night. Oddly enough, however, my brother has avoided driving on that particular road since then. It wasn't until recently, when a new highway to the city that completely bypasses the old road was completed, that he suggested going on a night drive together out of the blue. I was so surprised that I agreed without a second thought. It wasn't until I sat down in the front passenger seat that I suddenly remembered the incident from many years ago, and it occurred to me just how strange my brother's change of heart was. "So, what's up?" I asked him curiously. "What makes you want to drive at night again after so long?" "Oh, I never stopped wanting to go on night drives," he said nonchalantly. "It's just that for the longest time, I keep on having the same nightmare about the old road, and it seriously makes me hate driving on that road to my very core." I laughed. "A nightmare? Yeah, it's honestly super weird," he muttered. "It's always the same bus going down the same stretch of road, and I always find myself in the driver's seat no matter what I do." My smile faded. After overtaking a car in front, I must jump out to save myself or else I'll die in a deep ravine. Man, the screams at the end are the worst, I swear. They never fail to wake me up in cold sweat.